A ceasefire deal between Yemen's Houthi rebels and the U.S. does not include Israel. A spokesperson for the Houthis made the statement earlier today, suggesting that shipping attacks that have disrupted global trade will not come to a stop. President Trump announced Tuesday that the U.S. will stop bombing the Iran-linked group in Yemen, saying that the Houthis agreed to stop interrupting important shipping lanes in the Middle East. This morning, the Times of Israel reporting that Israel was not made aware of the deal ahead of the announcement that the U.S. and the Houthis had reached a ceasefire deal. We know that 6 people were injured when the Houthi rebels fired a ballistic missile that impacted just outside of Ben Gurion International Airport in Israel over the weekend. We brought that to you as breaking news, and that led Israel to launch retaliatory strikes. A lot to discuss here, so I do want to bring in Jonathan Schanzer, the executive director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Pleasure. Good to be with you.
All right. Well, first off, I do have to ask you, because over the weekend, we did see that ballistic missile that hit right near the airport there, a very busy one over in Israel. So what does that say overall about the Houthi capabilities?
Well, we've actually been watching these Houthi capabilities now since, I guess it was November of 2023. That's when they began firing at Israel. They have ballistic missiles. They've got the capability of firing at, I think it's about 1,000 miles away. And to be able to hit with some accuracy. This is all thanks to the Iranian regime, which has provided the Houthis with the missiles that they've been firing at Israel. What I think we can say about the attack the other day that was a near miss at Ben Gurion is that no air defense system is hermetic. And so the Israelis have this, it's called Arrow 3. It's been very good in terms of shooting down ballistic missiles. We have the THAAD system that the United States has deployed to the region. That's also been quite good at shooting down some of these missiles. However, there is no such thing as a hermetic seal. Every system has its flaws. We're going to see that these systems are fallible at the end of the day. So that is what's happened. In terms of exactly what the technical reasons were for the failure to shoot down those missiles, we're not sure yet. And I think at some point there should be some kind of a report from the U.S. or from the Israelis, perhaps both. But in the meantime, interesting to see how the Israelis responded. It took about a day, but they really unloaded on the Houthis. And then we saw that announcement just shortly after that they had arrived at some kind of an agreement with Donald Trump. Although, as you, I think, indicated, Josh, we're still trying to figure out exactly what the Houthis agreed to. In fact, just a few minutes ago, they fired a missile. It was apparently shot down in or around Saudi Arabia, or maybe it fell short. We're still getting some information about it, but the Houthis are not done with the war that they launched back in November of 23.
And I do have to ask, because we always say the Iran-backed group. We say it about the Houthis, we say it about Hezbollah and Hamas. Can you explain Iran's role in the Houthis and really the terror group in general?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Houthis actually existed before Iran began to provide its support. I mean, the Houthis truly emerged during the civil war that has erupted in Yemen that really began in the aftermath of the Arab Spring some 10 years ago. But the Houthis were a disaffected group, existed for, their own reasons within Yemen. But the Iranians are quite good at this, right? They find co-religionists who, are eager to fight, whether that is a local fight against their own government, which is certainly what happened when the civil war erupted, but then also attacks against Israel, against the Saudis, against the Emiratis. We've seen this now play out in multiple theaters. The Houthi violence. We see that the Iranians have been providing guidance. They've got advisors on the ground. They're providing weapons to the group. In other words, this is just like Hezbollah, just like Hamas, just like Islamic Jihad, just like some of those Shiite militias that we see in Iraq and Syria. It's part of a strategy that the Iranian regime has. We call it the Ring of Fire. And the idea is to have multiple proxies be able to threaten or even do damage to countries like Israel, American assets in the region. Certainly, we've been hit a number of times. And again, some of the other pragmatic states in the region have also been targeted. So this is the strategy of the regime, and it's been working well for them up until it hasn't. And what I mean by that is that, of course, Hamas is now significantly weaker. Hezbollah is significantly weaker. I think the Houthis certainly have taken their lumps over the last couple of months, and certainly over the last couple of days. So the question really, in my mind right now, is how strong is this network of proxies that Iran has deployed? Right now, it doesn't look good for them, but they still have capabilities.
When we talk about this potential ceasefire that appears to have been reached, the deal between the U.S. and the Houthis, as I mentioned, the Times of Israel saying that Israel is not involved and actually didn't even know about this when it was happening. They knew about it when the announcement came from President Trump. What does that say for the war there in Gaza? Does it have any sort of implications, especially as we know the Houthis have been not just attacking Israel, but also causing issues there for shipping?
Yeah, from what we can tell, this was a deal that was really only designed to open up the shipping lanes in the Red Sea, which is significant. I mean, let's just start with that. We're talking about probably 10 or 12% of global trade goes through this shipping channel. The Suez Canal, I mean, the traffic and the taxes derived from that traffic, I mean, it's dropped significantly. I think the Egyptians have been in bad shape. Some of the countries in the Horn of Africa have also suffered economically from this. Prices have gone up for things that would be typically shipped by way of the Far East or the Middle East to Europe. That has been significantly disrupted. So I think there was some benefit there. The problem is that if the deal that was struck does not actually include the missiles that the Houthis have been firing at Israel, what we have is an inherently unstable Middle East that is going to remain inherently unstable. In other words, we're not tackling all of these problems. Now, it doesn't mean that the U.S. has the responsibility to bomb the Houthis because of what's been happening, but I do think that making side deals is potentially problematic. I think we have to understand that this is happening amidst conversations that the Trump administration is having. There'll be another round of nuclear talks with the Iranians, indirect talks out of Oman. That's coming up on May 11th. And so the understanding, at least in part, as we piece all this together from the region, is that the administration is trying to line up a few things as possible external concessions to the Iranians in exchange for maybe concessions that the Iranians are going to make at the negotiating table. That's if things go well. If they don't go well, then what we're going to see is just more of the same, with just a side deal for the U.S. to get out of the Red Sea region. So again, a lot of things happening here. We're watching it all unfold in real time.
All right, Jonathan Schanzer, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and help discuss all this. There's obviously a lot to discuss, so anything you want to add before I let you go?
Oh, I think, we're all just waiting right now for this announcement from Donald Trump. Apparently a big announcement coming, rumors of aid distribution to Gaza that will be, direct assistance from the United States, possible hostage releases, but we obviously don't know. Again, a lot of things happening right now, not fully disclosed. So we're waiting to see what this all means for American foreign policy in the Middle East.
All right, Jonathan Schanzer there at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you.